The day my sister's guests mocked my son was the day I finally understood that blood isn't always thicker than water. My hands trembled as I clutched the gold-lettered invitation to Catherine's baby shower. Next to me, Oliver fidgeted with his tie, his brilliant mind already calculating escape routes from my sister's perfect world. "Mom, do I have to go?" His voice cracked slightly. What they never understood was that behind his learning difficulties lay a mind with extraordinary potential. My beautiful, misunderstood boy was dismissed by his own family as a slow, hiding a secret they couldn't begin to imagine. My sister's text flashed, "Please make sure Oliver behaves this time." I felt my heartbeat quicken, remembering her perfectly manicured hand, her voice dripping with false sympathy. It must be so hard raising a child with special needs. Little did she know that in exactly 2 weeks, her perfect world would shatter. I grabbed my keys, a small smile playing at my lips. "Ready to show them who you really are." Pulling up to the Grand Plaza Hotel, my beat-up sedan looked painfully out of place among the luxury cars. Oliver stared up at the towering building, his shoulders hunching forward, his defensive posture I knew too well. "Remember what we talked about," I said. "Just an hour, then we can leave." My mother Linda stood waiting at the entrance, her critical gaze taking inventory of our appearance. "Jennifer, you're late," she said, air-kissing my cheek. She barely acknowledged Oliver with a stiff nod. When the elevator doors opened, we were greeted by a flurry of activity, waiters carrying champagne flutes and Catherine's perfectly polished friends. Catherine stood radiant in a designer maternity dress. "Jennifer, you made it," she called with exaggerated enthusiasm. A waiter approached with a clipboard. "I need to check all guests against our security list." The waiter checked his list. "Yes, I see Miss Jennifer Hudson here. But there's no," he paused, looking at Oliver. My stomach dropped as dozens of eyes turned toward us. "Oliver Hudson," I supplied. "My son." "I'm sorry, but I don't see his name on the guest list." Catherine's eyebrows furrowed. "Oh dear, there must have been a mix-up with the RSVP. I told you I was bringing Oliver," I said quietly. "Just like I always do." Oliver touched my elbow. "Mom, maybe I should go. I have that science project to work on anyway." Before I could respond, a sharp voice cut through the awkwardness. "Oh my God, you actually came." Madison, Catherine's 15-year-old daughter, approached with her entourage of teenagers. Madison's eyes swept over Oliver's discounted clothes with undisguised disdain. "Hey, Maddie," Oliver said. "It's Madison," she corrected coldly. "Madison," Catherine called. "Come introduce your friends to your cousin." Madison rolled her eyes. "This is my cousin Oliver. He goes to Westfield Public." The way she said it made the school sound like a rehabilitation center. "We have to make special accommodations for Oliver at family gatherings," Madison continued. "He's, you know, special." Her friends laughed openly. One stage whispered, "Is he the one who had that meltdown at your mom's birthday?" Catherine pulled me aside. "Jenny, maybe Oliver would be more comfortable in the library room? They have a TV in there. You want to put my son in another room? Like he's something to be hidden away?" The anger I'd been suppressing threatened to boil over. "Don't be dramatic. These high society events can be overwhelming for someone with his challenges." "His challenges don't prevent him from being part of this family," I hissed. Catherine patted my arm condescendingly. "It must be so hard for you, always having to make excuses for him." Richard stood at the front of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to propose a toast to my beautiful wife, Catherine, who is about to bless our family with another perfect addition." Just this week, Madison was selected to represent her school at the National Science Olympiad. The youngest student ever chosen from Briarwood Academy. "Intelligence and drive run in the family," Richard continued. though sometimes it skips a generation or two. Several people chuckled, and I noticed glances in my direction. Mom, Oliver appeared at my side, his voice barely audible. Can we go now? Soon, I promised, my heart breaking for him. Catherine approached. Isn't Madison amazing? She's been working on a revolutionary approach to water purification using natural materials. I felt Oliver stiffen beside me. Water purification was exactly what he'd been working on for the past 3 years. That's quite a coincidence, I said carefully. Oliver's project. He's been working on water purification too. Catherine laughed. Oh, that's cute. I'm sure his science fair project is very creative. It's not for a science fair, Oliver said. It's a functional prototype based on biomimicry principles, utilizing modified plant cellulose as a filtration medium. Madison joined us. Really? What a shock. Copying me again? I've been working on my project for 3 years, Oliver said quietly. Madison rolled her eyes. Sure you have. Was that between your special ed classes or during the time you hide in the bathroom at school? Her friends laughed. I felt my blood boil. What? Madison replied to my glare. Everyone knows Cousin Oliver is troubled. It's not his fault he's slow. I'm not slow, Oliver said, his voice stronger now. I have dyslexia and ADHD. It affects how I process written information, not my intelligence. One of Madison's friends smirked. Is that why you freaked out at the Christmas party, when the lights were too bright? My little brother does that too. He's 7. More laughter. Oliver's face flushed red. That's enough, I said firmly. Catherine intervened. Girls, that's not very kind. Oliver can't help the way he is. I don't need your help, Oliver said suddenly, looking directly at Catherine. And I don't need your pity. Oliver, honey, no one's pitying you, she said carefully. We're family. We understand your limitations. You don't understand anything about me, Oliver replied, his voice steady despite the slight tremor in his hands. Madison sneered. We understand that you'll never be anyone important. You'll never accomplish anything significant. That's just reality. Madison. Catherine gasped, though there was no real shock in her voice, just concern about appearances. I stepped forward. We're leaving. So soon. But Catherine's about to open her gifts, Richard said. I think we've had enough family time for one day, I said coldly. As we turned to leave, I heard Madison's clear voice behind us. See? I told you they wouldn't stay long. They never do. It's too normal here for them. We walked through the ballroom with our heads held high. When the elevator doors closed, Oliver let out a long breath. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispered. For what? I asked. For embarrassing you. For not being like them. I turned to him, taking his face in my hands. Listen to me. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. They're the ones who should be apologizing. As we reached the car, Oliver looked back at the Grand Hotel. She's wrong, you know, he said suddenly. Madison? About what? About me never being anyone or doing anything important. They'll see. I smiled, feeling a surge of pride. Yes, they will. Hey, I said, reaching over to straighten his tie. How about we stop for ice cream on the way home? Oliver's face lit up. The special kind with the chunks of cookie dough? For the first time that day, he laughed, a sound that washed away the hurt of the afternoon. As we drove away from my sister's perfect world, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the most difficult soil. What Catherine and the others didn't know was that very soon, they would all be forced to see Oliver for who he truly was. And I couldn't wait to witness it. Our small house looked modest after the opulence of the Grand Plaza. As Oliver headed straight to the basement, I felt a surge of pride that had nothing to do with luxury fixtures. "Dinner in 30 minutes, I called after him. "This is my homework, Mom," he replied, his voice lighter now that we were home. I smiled. While other mothers fought to get their teenagers to study, I had to drag Oliver away from his experiments. As I prepared dinner, I glanced at the stack of bills. Teaching during the day and tutoring online at night barely covered our expenses, but I'd figure it out. I always did. When dinner was ready, I headed downstairs. What greeted me would shock anyone who believed the slow and troubled labels my family had assigned to my son. Every surface was covered with research materials. Whiteboards filled with complex formulas. In the center stood Oliver's pride, a water filtration prototype nothing like typical science fair projects. Oliver hunched over a microscope, not noticing me until I was right behind him. "Earth to Oliver." He turned with excitement. "Mom, the modified cellulose fibers are working exactly as I predicted. Look." He pulled me toward the microscope, transformed from the withdrawn boy at the shower to a confident young scientist. "I've engineered it to work 10 times more efficiently than natural systems. It's amazing, Oliver. But your brain needs fuel. Dinner's ready." Over dinner, Oliver explained his project animatedly. This was the real Oliver, passionate, articulate, brilliant. "Madison's water purification project must be similar to yours," I ventured. Oliver shook his head. "She's using a conventional approach. It works, but it's nothing new. And it leaves chemicals in the water." "How would your cousin know about your project?" I asked. "Remember when Grandma visited last summer? She saw my notebooks and probably told Aunt Catherine." I frowned, remembering how my mother had dismissed Oliver's scribbles. As we washed dishes, I thought about how his father had walked out when the school suggested testing Oliver for learning disabilities, claiming he hadn't signed up for a special needs kid. His loss. He'd missed watching our son grow into someone extraordinary. "Mom, are you okay? Just thinking about how proud I am of you." "Because of my project?" "Because of who you are, Oliver. All of who you are." His phone buzzed. "Dr. Ramirez wants me to bring the latest results tomorrow. She says we should consider submitting to the National Youth Science Foundation." Dr. Ramirez had been Oliver's champion since they'd met. Where school administrators saw only his disabilities, she recognized his exceptional mind. Later, my phone rang. "Jennifer. I just reviewed Oliver's data, and I couldn't wait to discuss it," Dr. Ramirez said. "He's still working." That doesn't surprise me. What Oliver has developed is truly revolutionary, combining principles in a way I've rarely seen from established scientists, let alone a 15-year-old. Pride swelled in my chest. I've spoken with the National Youth Science Award Committee. If his demonstration works as well as his data suggests, he has a strong chance of winning. That's broadcast on television, isn't it? Yes, with a scholarship and internship opportunities. But more importantly, it would give Oliver the recognition he deserves. After we hung up, I found Oliver asleep at his workstation. Data charts were still displayed on his screen, results that had impressed one of the state's top scientists. "Oliver, honey. Time for bed." He stirred. Did I fall asleep? "Dr. Ramirez just called. She's submitting your project to the National Youth Science Award. She thinks you have a real chance of winning." Oliver's eyes widened. "Really? But that's huge, Mom." "Yes, it is. And so is what you've created. If I win, everyone would know. Madison, Aunt Catherine, Grandma, they'd all see it on TV. Yes, they would. I didn't hide my satisfaction. But that's not why I'm doing this, he said seriously. This could actually help people. I hugged him tight, this beautiful soul who cared more about making a difference than proving people wrong. As I tucked him into bed, I imagined the faces of my family if Oliver won. The shock, the sudden realization that they had completely misjudged him. Mom? I'm glad they don't know who I really am. Not yet. Why is that? Because when they find out, it'll be even better. As I closed his door, I thought about his quiet determination. My son might process the world differently, but he understood, the sweetest victory isn't just proving others wrong, it's proving yourself right. 2 weeks until the National Youth Science Awards ceremony would be broadcast live. 2 weeks until my perfect sister and her perfect family would see exactly who Oliver Hudson really was. 2 weeks later, the National Science Foundation auditorium buzzed with excitement. I sat nervously beside Dr. Ramirez, watching Oliver and the other finalists on the monitor. He looks so calm, I whispered. He's in his element here, Dr. Ramirez smiled. The host took the stage. Welcome to the 35th Annual National Youth Science Awards. As they announced category winners, my heart pounded. Oliver was a finalist in the Environmental Innovation category, competing against students from elite academies, including Madison's prestigious school. Her project had advanced to regionals but no further. And now, for our Environmental Innovation Award, the host announced. This category recognizes groundbreaking solutions to our planet's most pressing ecological challenges. When Oliver's water purification system appeared, the audience murmured appreciatively. The winner, with a revolutionary biomimicry-based water filtration system that outperformed conventional methods by 300% while using sustainable materials accessible to developing communities. The host paused, Oliver Hudson from Westfield Public School. The audience erupted in applause. I clapped until my hands hurt, tears streaming down my face. Oliver appeared on stage, momentarily stunned before smiling confidently. He wasn't the awkward teenager from the baby shower now. Tell us about your invention, Oliver. My system uses modified plant cellulose structures to create a filtration medium that removes contaminants at the molecular level, he explained, his voice steady, hands moving expressively. The most important aspect is that it's self-sustaining and can be built using locally available materials. Clean water shouldn't be a luxury. It's a basic human right. One of the judges stepped forward. Oliver's innovation has also been selected for our implementation grant. We'll be piloting his system in 3 developing communities facing water crises. I'd like to thank Dr. Ramirez for believing in me, Oliver said. And most of all, my mom, who never once doubted me, even when everyone else did. Our eyes met, and in that moment, every sacrifice was worth it.
Meanwhile, at the Preston home, Catherine flipped through channels while Madison sulked over her science project's regional defeat. Honey, it's not the end of the world, Catherine said. There will be other competitions. Richard entered, loosening his tie, just as Catherine landed on the Education Channel. Tonight's top winner at the National Youth Science Awards has created what experts are calling a game-changing water purification system. The screen cut to Oliver accepting his award, confidently explaining his invention. Catherine froze. Is that? Oliver Hudson's revolutionary design outperformed industry standards by 300%, the announcer continued. Experts say it could transform access to clean water worldwide. Catherine's wine glass slipped from her fingers, spilling across her carpet. She didn't even notice. Madison, she called, her voice strained. Madison trudged back, then stopped abruptly seeing Oliver on screen. Is that Oliver? Apparently winning the National Youth Science Award. For a water purification system, Richard said slowly. Madison paled. But that's impossible. He's in special ed. He has dyslexia and ADHD, Richard corrected. Neither affects intelligence. The judges noted that Mr. Hudson's approach was particularly impressive given his age and limited resources, the announcer continued. Unlike conventional chemical treatments, his system leaves no harmful residues. Madison sank onto the couch. That's why he said he'd been working on it for 3 years. He wasn't copying me. Why didn't you tell me your nephew was a scientific prodigy? Richard turned to Catherine, his expression hard. Do you have any idea what kind of investment opportunity this represents? I didn't know. Catherine protested. Did you ever ask? Richard shot back. Or were you too busy comparing him unfavorably to Madison? But he's weird, Madison whispered. He freaks out at loud noises. He can't even look people in the eye sometimes. And yet, Richard said pointedly, he just won the most prestigious science award in the country. While your project didn't make it past regionals. He pulled out his phone and began typing rapidly. What are you doing? Catherine asked. Researching Oliver's invention. And then I'm going to call your sister and apologize for how we treated her son. Everyone at school will see this, Madison said hollowly. They'll all know I lost to my troubled cousin. Oliver has one of the most remarkable minds I've encountered in 30 years of teaching, Dr. Ramirez was saying on screen. He doesn't just think outside the box, he doesn't see the box at all. Catherine sank back onto the couch, her perfect world tilting on its axis. Call Jennifer, she said suddenly. Tell her we want to celebrate with them. Richard gave her a withering look. Do you really think she'll accept after how we've treated them? After Madison said he'd never be anyone important or accomplish anything significant? Madison blanched. I didn't mean. You absolutely meant it, Richard cut her off. And now you have to live with being demonstrably, publicly wrong. The three of them sat in stunned silence as experts predicted Oliver's invention could help millions worldwide. What do we do now? Madison finally asked, her voice small. We acknowledge we were wrong, Richard said. And we examine why we were so quick to dismiss someone because they didn't fit our narrow definition of success.
As Oliver and I left the auditorium, my phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Just saw Oliver on TV. Congratulations. Can we talk? I showed it to Oliver. He gave me a small, confident smile. Not tonight, he said simply. Tonight is for us. I put my phone away, slipping my arm around my brilliant son's shoulders as we stepped out into the cool evening air, his trophy gleaming under the stars. 1 week after the awards ceremony, Westfield Public is incredibly proud to announce that our very own Oliver Hudson has won the National Youth Science Award. Principal Warren proclaimed during the school assembly. I watched from the back row as the same administrator who once suggested Oliver might be happier in a more specialized environment, now claimed him as the school's crown jewel. After the assembly, Warren approached us. Mrs. Hudson, Oliver, I can't tell you how proud we all are. That's a recent development, I replied coolly. We'd like to create a specialized independent study program for Oliver, he said. With media attention on our school, it's an opportunity to showcase our support for gifted students. Oliver looked at him steadily. Will other students with learning differences get similar support? Warren blinked. Well, that's a different department entirely. It shouldn't be, Oliver said quietly. As we walked away, Oliver whispered, 2 months ago, he called me a discipline problem. In the parking lot, Madison hurried toward us. Oliver. Wait up. Hi, she said breathlessly. I just wanted to say congratulations. Oliver nodded cautiously. Thanks. I wanted to apologize for what I said at the baby shower. About you never being anyone important. I was completely wrong. Oliver studied her face. Why are you really here, Madison? Her rehearsed expression faltered. Our science teacher showed your acceptance speech to the entire class. Everyone was talking about how my cousin is a genius inventor. She hesitated. And I need help with my science project. Dad says if I don't improve it, I'll lose my spot on the science team. I'll think about it, Oliver said simply. Send me your project details. As Madison walked away, I raised an eyebrow. That was generous of you. He shrugged. Scientific progress is built on collaboration, not competition. Besides, it must be hard living up to everyone's expectations all the time. At home, we found Catherine and Richard waiting on our porch. We've been trying to reach you, Catherine said, holding a gift basket. Inside, Richard got straight to business. Oliver, Horizon Investments would like to discuss seed funding to develop your invention commercially. We're family, Catherine added warmly. We should keep this opportunity in the family. I laughed incredulously. Family? The same family that I forgot to put Oliver on the guest list? What would your investment entail? Oliver asked, surprisingly businesslike. We'd establish a corporate entity, with Horizon as primary investor. Standard equity division, management oversight. With you in control, Oliver finished. Thank you for the offer, Oliver continued. But I've already accepted a partnership with the Global Water Initiative. They're keeping it open source, focusing on implementation rather than profit. Richard frowned. Open source? But the patent potential alone isn't the point, Oliver said firmly. Clean water access is. Catherine jumped in. Briarwood Academy is very interested in offering you a full scholarship. Briarwood turned down my application 2 years ago, Oliver replied. They said their program wasn't structured for students with my needs. Things change, Catherine smiled brightly. I'm staying at Westfield, Oliver said. My friends are there. After they left, Oliver and I sat on the porch steps. Are you sure about turning down Briarwood? I asked. It would open doors. Oliver shook his head. I don't want doors that only open because of an award. And Richard's investment offer? Dr. Ramirez introduced me to engineers who are helping scale the design. We're focusing on implementation, not profit. He looked at me. Is that okay? More than okay, I assured him. I'm incredibly proud of you. Not just for what you've created, but for how you're handling all of this. Oliver smiled. A month ago, I would have given anything for them to see me differently. Now that they do, it doesn't really matter anymore. Because you know your worth doesn't depend on their recognition, I said. My phone chimed with another text from Catherine, please reconsider Briarwood's offer. It's such an opportunity for Oliver. I showed it to Oliver, who shook his head. She still doesn't get it, does she? She will, I replied, not responding to the text. Eventually. As the streetlights flickered on, I felt a weight lift. The judgment of others, my mother's, Catherine's, the school's, no longer mattered. We would follow our own path, no longer seeking validation from those who had been so quick to underestimate us. 6 months later. The Hudson Learning Center hummed with activity as children gathered around tables working on science and art projects. In the demonstration area, Oliver guided students through the principles of water filtration. The key is understanding how natural systems already solve these problems, he explained confidently to a captivated audience. A boy with thick glasses raised his hand. But I don't understand the math part. That's okay, Oliver replied patiently. There are different ways to learn. Let me show you visually. I watched with pride as my son guided the student through a hands-on demonstration. Oliver's water purification system was being implemented in 3 countries, but teaching kids with learning differences seemed to bring him the most joy. The center had been Oliver's idea, a place where children with different learning styles could explore without the pressures of traditional education. As the last students left, Madison entered with a large portfolio. "I've finished the designs," she said, revealing stunning promotional materials for the center with beautifully illustrated scientific concepts. "These are amazing," I said, genuinely impressed. She flushed with pleasure. "I've never really shown my art to anyone before. My parents always focused on my science achievements." "You've made the concept so much clearer," Oliver noted. "Not everyone learns the same way." "How did your parents react to your art program application?" I asked. "Dad's coming around. Mom's still adjusting to the idea that I might not follow her exact path." The next morning, I found an envelope containing a substantial anonymous donation. The handwriting on the note was unmistakably Catherine's, for the children who see the world differently. May they all find someone who believes in them. 3 weeks later, we received an invitation to Catherine's baby's christening. "We don't have to go," I told Oliver. "I think we should," he replied thoughtfully. "Isn't that what your center teaches? Growth and second chances?" At the church, Catherine stood at the front holding baby Thomas. When she saw us, relief washed over her face. After the ceremony, Catherine approached us. "Thank you for coming. It means a lot." "Would you like to hold him?" she asked, offering the baby. As I took my nephew, something shifted between us. "We're hoping he has Oliver's brains," Catherine said with a small smile. "And his heart." "I received your donation," I said quietly. "Thank you." Catherine nodded. "Your center, it's exactly what I wish had existed for Oliver years ago. And maybe for Madison too." Later, I found myself alone with Catherine while Oliver demonstrated a scientific principle to fascinated cousins. "I was wrong," Catherine said suddenly. "About so many things. I was jealous of you," she continued. "Of your relationship with Oliver. The way you always seemed so certain about what mattered." "Me?" I laughed in disbelief. "I was struggling while you had the perfect career, perfect house. Perfect on the outside," she corrected. "Inside, I was terrified of not measuring up. I pushed Madison because I thought success meant following one specific path. And now." She watched Madison explaining her artwork. "Now I'm learning there are many kinds of success. Many kinds of intelligence." She met my eyes. "I'm sorry, Jennifer. For everything. I'm not saying we'll suddenly be best friends," I replied honestly. "But maybe we can be better sisters. Better mothers. Together." On the drive home, Oliver said thoughtfully, "Everyone has their struggles. Even people who seem perfect." "Yes," I agreed. "Everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about." "The center helps," he said decisively. "It matters." That evening, I received a text from Catherine. "Madison would like to volunteer at the center this summer. She says Oliver's helping her see science in her art." I smiled and texted back, "We'd love to have her." Some journeys come full circle. Others branch into entirely new paths. Ours, it seemed, was doing a bit of both.